Welcome in. It's Thursday, September 19th with the EBDB Weekly Update. I botched that again. EBDB Weekly Update. One day I'll learn how to say our own league name. I'm your host, Tim Sorrells. With me today, as always, my co-host, Brett Colleton. And we have a special guest this week joining us, Brett Johnson. Hello, my Bretts. How are you both doing?
Doing
good,
well.
Tim. Good to see you.
You guys enjoyed that very boring, awful Thursday night game?
Didn't even watch it.
Yeah, I turned it off.
Been watching Hijack on Apple TV with Idris Elba.
Well, you didn't miss much
Solid.
in this game.
No, Aaron Rodgers looks good. The Patriots look bad. That's about all I took away from it.
Isn't it?
And I think
Isn't
all
it
the podcasts I
disappointing?
listened to this week said that they had no offensive line. So Brissett just got beat up the whole game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it disappointing that Aaron Rodgers is like good? Wouldn't it just be better if he just like sucked?
Yes. But
I don't know if I agree. I like him still. He's an old Packer, so it's like too many good years. I can't root for you to be awful forever. Go out, play well, call it a career.
Yeah. I guess.
Enjoy your nostalgia, Tim.
Yeah, well, it's all right. He looked good this week, but going back to week 2, what do you think of the weekend? Anything catch you off guard? What are your thoughts?
My big thing was so many injuries. I feel like everybody's dealing with it. The questionable tag this week has been all over everybody. I mean, as a Niners fan, Charvarius Ward, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, feels like everybody's going up. I've had to put Pacheco on the IR in one of my leagues. Nico Collins has got a questionable tag. I feel like every team's going through it. Like there's no ambulance team in the league anymore. Everybody's going to be playing the waiver wire to just make sure that they can field a decent team every week going forward.
Yeah, and it's a lot of like it's all the soft tissue stuff, like stuff's popping up in practice, right? AJ Brown popped up late with, hamstring from practice and then didn't play. Yeah, it's just frustrating.
Kind of compounding the whole injury aspect of it too. There aren't great people as the backups. Like
No.
when CMC went down, Jordan Mason was already on a roster, so there was no bidding war for him. But every other injury, it's mediocre fantasy options or even mediocre NFL options. So there's nobody really exciting to bid on and step into those roles at this point.
It's a little bit of foreshadowing into later there, Tim.
Well, that's just my opinion. But what do you guys think about that? I know, Brett Johnson, you mentioned about the Chiefs running back room and who's going to take over. Do you want to jump into that?
I mean, I don't think I put a bid on any of those guys. I think Kareem Hunt's probably old and washed. But clearly they wanted a little something more than Samaje Perine. And then I don't know, when's the last good white running back you've seen in the NFL?
Peyton Hillis.
Okay, for 1 year. You made a Madden cover. I think I had that Madden.
CMC is white. Don't forget that.
Oh, you forget.
Yeah, okay. Spiritually,
He's the outlier.
Though,
He's like
spiritually though.
he's like Eminem in rap music. He just stands alone.
That's funny. I did forget about Christian McCaffrey.
Same.
You want a fun story about Christian McCaffrey? This is off topic, but
Sure.
This is why you have me on. My wife's sister, so my sister-in-law, is dating a guy that grew up in Colorado, right? And Christian McCaffrey grew up in Colorado. And he claims that he beat Christian McCaffrey in the 100-meter dash in high school. And I did not believe him for the longest time. He told me this, early on in their relationship, and I was like, there's no fucking way. And then I looked it up, and he did beat Christian McCaffrey in the 100-meter dash in high school.
Nice.
So
that's awesome.
That's pretty cool. Know a guy that beat an NFL running back in a sprint?
It's a fun fact for the rest of his life.
He's Filipino? Indian?
Well, let's get him off. Let's get him on the Chiefs.
yeah.
They need another carrier.
He's also maybe 5'9", so I don't know. I don't know how well his speed will translate to the NFL, but
Yeah, I don't love those. Like, there's three guys, none of them are any good. It kind of reminds me of the Rams wide receiver group. Brett, I know you picked up Whittington. You were mentioning before we hopped on here, like, we know what we're getting out of Demarcus Robinson. We know what we're getting out of Tutu Atwell. Those guys are not stars, but the Rams do keep guys in fantasy points when from the wide receiver position. Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are both number one guys, and so those targets got to go somewhere. And either Kyron Williams is now going to be the number one guy in fantasy, or somebody's going to pop, and it might be a different guy every game. But we'll just have to see, because I didn't put a bid on any of the Chiefs guys. I didn't put a bid on any of the Rams guys. It just stresses me out to try to figure out which one is going to be any good.
yeah, I think that's a bit of the luxury of our league is the deep benches mean, okay, I can drop Adonai Mitchell because he's not doing anything for me and throw a dart with Jordan Whittington and go, okay, maybe he's the guy that gets the targets. But then, yeah, you just don't know. Even if this week one of them pops, are you going to trust that guy for the next 2 weeks after that?
Totally.
I'm still thinking Robinson's the guy. Conveniently, I have him. So maybe that's just me being liking my roster. But we saw what he did last year when Cooper Kupp was out 15, 16-point weeks for like 4 or 5 weeks in a row. And that's if you get that out of your last flex spot, that's fantastic. So
and
we'll see.
But you just don't know. Tutu had some good weeks, but he now has to be the number one, right?
Yeah.
I think
Someone's got to be.
With two number ones out, right? With Cooper and Puka out, right? There's not the other guy that's going to take the attention away. So
That's definitely not somebody as talented.
Right.
We'll see. I mean, the Rams didn't look great last week, so it might not matter at this point who their receiver is.
Yeah, it could be nobody.
It could be, exactly. Could be nobody. And probably the Chiefs is the same way, where it very well could just be all the rushing yards that Pacheco had is just going to be Mahomes' extra yards through the air.
Yeah.
Or dump down to P-Run in a screen game. So I think, neither one is probably going to be fantastic for either of those teams. But we'll have to wait it out here. We have a special segment with Brett here coming up in a little bit. So we're going to just kind of blast right through this week 2 review and then hand over the reins and let them just unload on you all for a bit.
Let them cook.
Can't wait.
Nope, you're good. I'm messing this up. See, I'm off my game here. Brett comes on, I get flustered. I don't have my media settings turned on right, but
It's the hair.
This is how it goes.
It's the
That-
flow.
good.
Those luscious locks.
The flow.
So week 2's done. 2 undefeated teams left. Brett Colleton and Alex Warnier. Sitting at the top.
Let's go.
Brett had a massive score last week. So blowing
Big
people
number.
out. And then we got a bunch of teams clustered at 1-1. Some looking better than others. And then Chris and Katie, you two have to figure this one out. Your teams aren't looking very great. So we'll see.
I feel like we kind of nailed it. We gave Chris a ton of shit. It's really nice that, I said in the last episode that we don't know anything about fantasy football. Maybe we know a little bit about fantasy football. That felt pretty good.
I feel like Chris constructed a really good team for 2021.
Well,
For sure.
I don't disagree with you. I like to say I was right on the Jacobs call last week. Massive volume, 150 yards, which is pretty crazy. And Tyreek shouldn't do 6 points. But also he started McConkey,
Yep.
Well,
which
but
made
now,
0 sense.
yeah, that's you want to talk about injuries too. That's almost worse if you have Tyreek Hill and now you have Skylar Thompson or Snoop Huntley in a couple weeks thrown to him. I mean, that's almost like having Tyreek Hill injured.
Totally. Yeah, I got Jaden Reed in one league, and I'm trying to trust Malik Willis to get any of his wide receivers.
Oh,
Is a nightmare.
No. Yeah, that would have been an automatic not start for me.
Yeah, I don't want this to go by. Tim says I put up a big number, but I only would have beaten Tim and the Chalupa Batmen by 8 points this week. So there are a couple big numbers here. I mean,
imagine if Tim had a tight end.
Oh, God.
That scored any points.
Or wide receiver 4 to replace Tank Dell's 2.
Oof. All right, let's move through these real quick. I got one big thing on each of the matchups, and then we'll get to awards and then Brett's rant here. First up, we got Tim and Lizzy. Projection 128 to 132. Tim ended up winning 165 to 146. My one big thing from this matchup, kickers are crazy. Pick up a kicker, put him in your flex spot if that was possible, because, man, there's some big numbers. Brendan Aubrey and Kaimi Fairbairn in that matchup both put up some big numbers, getting both of them up to close to 150, eclipsing 150 in Tim's case. Chris and Sam, projection 127 to 128, a close one. Sam ended up beating Chris, as we've mentioned. The one big thing, kickers are still good, but tight ends are bad. And Kittle popped up. Wow, let me try one more time. Kittle popped off for 20 points in that matchup, which is just about a little bit over the differentiation of the win there. We mentioned my win ended up being 173 to 83. I think this was a big lucky versus unlucky. Kamara's not going to score 44 points every week. Christian McCaffrey's not going to be hurt every week. I think that was probably Katie's worst week going forward and maybe my best, but at 2-0, I feel pretty good about it. Brett and Danny, we had Brett at 132, Danny at 138. Brett came through with a W. Congratulations, my man, by 10 points. My one big thing, if your QB beats the other one by 19, you're probably going to have a good day. Max and Alex in our matchup of the week, projection was 130 to 134. Was going to be a tight one, ended up being a tight one. Alex won 145 to 143 solely off of the guys that he had going on Monday night. Hurts won it at the wire, as Tim was saying before we started recording. A second interception may have done him in, but those 5 points from Kyle Pitts put Alex over the top for him to go 2-0.
Before we go into the weekly awards, I want to call Lizzy out here. She was talking shit to me before the week started. Apparently got a little bit too cocky with her, week 1 performance and said, thumbs up, get ready to lose, is what she said. And then I asked if she wanted to re-comment on that statement now that, the week was over and we're going to be recording for this week. And she says she's not too worried about it. She says, still the highest points in the loss. I'm not worried about 1 week. I think I think she's actually really worried deep down, and she's trying to keep it cool. So she's probably crying at home after that loss,
She does have the second most points scored in the league by about 30. The gap between me and her is 8. The gap between her and who's that? That's Danny. Nope, Alex is 20 points. So big gap. Her team's good.
Yeah,
I think she does have a good team.
She does have
no
a
doubt.
pretty solid roster, top to bottom. I think Xavier Worthy is going to be a bit of a hit or miss every week, but
if you would listen to the podcast, Brett, we called him our shaky start of the week.
No, I know.
Every week.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some awards, Tim.
All right, let's do it. Brett Colleton, this is your guy for Stud of the Week, so you have it.
My whole heart. These New Orleans Saints. My New Orleans Saints these days. Stud of the Week goes to Alvin Kamara, and just a absolute throwback. That number 1 pick in your fantasy draft type performance. 44 points, 3 touchdowns, a beast on the ground, doing it through the air as well. I'm super psyched to have him on my team. Clint Kubiak, who's the offensive coordinator in this New Orleans offense, is an ex-Kyle Shanahan guy, and Kamara just looks like he's being used the exact same way that CMC has been used. And as long as he can stay not old and healthy all year, I feel great about that draft pick. He's looking mighty fine, putting up the amount of points that he did in even without all the other guys on my team having good weeks, 44 points wins you a week almost every time.
Yeah, he really turned back the clock. It reminded me of I want to say that was a fantasy final, however many years ago when he had the 6 touchdowns.
Christmas
Isn't
Day.
it Christmas Day? Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, they just kept coming. Every time I looked up, it's Kamara's in for another score.
Oh man, I wish I had brought it up, but I'll bring it up now. They had 10 games in the early window, and I love Red Zone, but I was so overwhelmed. Brett, I think I had the same experience. It felt like every time they cut to a highlight in Red Zone, it was the Saints scoring another touchdown on the Cowboys, and it was Kamara doing something wild to get himself in the end zone. So it was awesome. It was very overwhelming.
I don't know if this is the place for it, but I'm an Andrew Siciliano guy. And I think Scott Hansen runs Red Zone like a fucking cocaine addict. I hate the way that guy runs the Red Zone channel. Because
that's hilarious.
This is what he does. Like, whatever. A team will be driving. They're in the red zone. And then he's cutting away in between every play to show you a play of, like, the Steelers Broncos. And I'm like, I don't need to see. Like, my attention span isn't that short. I don't need to see Justin Fields, throwing the ball out of bounds, taking me away from, this Chiefs Bengals drive or whatever.
Fair.
Just stay there.
I don't know that I've ever had an opinion. The only opinion I have is Andrew Siciliano's ears are weird.
They're weird, but I think he ran a tight ship. He'd give you a little context before he bounced over. Hey, this is what's going on in this game. Hansen's just like a drunken toddler with a remote.
That's so funny. Brett, I'm going to throw this over to you. You had our runner-up as Kyler Murray, 28.5 points. What do you think of Kyler this year?
I think Tim hit the nail on the head. When your quarterback outscores the other one by 20 points, that's a good week. I think people kind of sleep on how good Kyler is in general, and especially for fantasy. He runs a bunch. He's got a big arm, and he's got a good weapon now in Marvin Harrison Jr. So I think it's a formula, and I think in general they're not. I mean, they're playing pretty well, but I don't think they're going to be a great team. So they should be throwing plenty.
Yep.
I think it's a recipe for a guy to do well in fantasy, and he turned it on this week. So
he should have a good year. Definitely a good pickup by you in the draft here. Moving on to Dud of the.
Sorry, real quick, Tim. He's one of those guys that's great if they've scored 6 points going into the fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden you look up and he's got 25 because in garbage time they've put up 2 touchdowns. He's run for 30 or 40 more yards.
Yep, he's the guy you hate to go against him too. You're like, come on. Lamar's the same way. Lamar will just skate by with like nothing, and then he rips off a few runs, little touchdown, and then he's got 20.
100%.
Moving on to duds here. We have our winner of the dud of the week as Travis Kelce with 1.6 points this week. And this is 2 weeks back-to-back where he's just been abysmal. And you wonder what's going on, and are they going to ease him into the year and just take it slow until the playoffs, then unleash him like they did last year? It's not looking like a good draft pick, though, for this one. And to be honest, Travis Kelce's 1.6 points probably cost Danny of the week.
Yeah.
Even a typical game from Kelce two years ago would have been more than enough. I mean, getting 10 points out of Kelce is usually a lock.
Yeah, totally agree.
Sad to see.
I think last year at least he had the injury or whatever week 1 that that could be an excuse. I don't follow Kelce that much, but I don't think he's banged up at all. I think he might just be a little old and basically doing load management for the year.
That's what it feels like. Our runner-up here, though, was Jamar Chase on this one. Brett Johnson, again, your guy. So you had the runner-up on the good side and the runner-up on the bad side. You ready to burn Chase yet?
I think the Bengals are historically slow starters. I think I saw something under Zach Taylor. They're like 1-12 or something in their first 2 weeks of the year. So I'm not too worried yet. But for a first-round talent, even though, sure, I kept him in the 5th or whatever, you want more out of Jamar Chase. And there's not even really the glimpses of it. It's not like, he breaks free and Joe Burrow just misses him or he's getting a ton of targets. The targets aren't really there. there's the contract stuff, but it's a bit of a slow start for him.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think like the breakaway, no one's going to catch him. The absolute great separation that he showed in his first couple of years just doesn't seem to be there. And I don't know if it's a Bengals offense thing. I don't know if defenses are covering him. It'll be super interesting to see what happens when they bring it or when T. Higgins comes back. But like that offense was at its best when they had three really good separating hands wide receivers with Chase, Higgins, and Tyler Boyd.
Yeah.
2 or 3 years ago, Tyler Boyd, obviously not on the team anymore, getting a little bit older, but having those guys. So maybe it's just that Chase hasn't had the opportunity, and if Higgins comes back and can open up some space for him, maybe he starts to pop. But he's got way too much talent to keep putting up games like this. There's just no way.
Yeah. He's got a nice – I think if he does again this week against Washington's horrible defense, then there will be a couple more alarm bells. But, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think the Chiefs do a great job of double-teaming, your best player. Week 1, I think, whatever, he didn't practice all week. So you can easily come up with excuses for him, but, I think this is the week that he's got to prove it.
Totally. I'll go into this one, Tim. This is my Michael Scott, no, God, please, no award for the player that I do not want to see playing against me this week. This week I'm going with Devontae Adams. Similar to Mike Evans, Gardner Minshew is not a dumb man. He knows to get the ball to his best player. And, God, that catch that Devontae made on the sideline just shows how good that dude still is. If a ball is near him, he's getting his hands on it. He's going to be a high target guy. He's going to be a high catch guy. Playing in a PPR league against Devontae is just an absolute nightmare. That dude's going to put up big points every single week because at least now he has a quarterback who knows that he needs to get him the ball, and he will do it. So that's my guy. Do not want to see him in a matchup going forward.
Gardner Minshew might be a dumb guy. I don't know if you've seen any interview with that guy, but
intelligence,
streetwise,
sure,
yes, but no, on the football field, he knows what to do.
And strangely enough, nobody thinks of him as a great quarterback, but I think he has the highest completion percentage of any quarterback in the league this year. I thought I heard that stat this week, which seems bonkers.
That's cool.
Good for him.
Usually we'd have a shaky start here, but looking at the rosters from this week, I couldn't pick one. I couldn't find one that I would say which was shaky and then did well. There was the bad choices where, Chris made some bad calls with his roster and played guys that probably shouldn't have been started, and they did bad as expected. Some pivoting. We're doing the Jesse Pinkman, he can't keep getting away with it award. And this week it's going to Derek Carr with 22 points. Derek Carr is not supposed to be good. He's been in the league for a long time. We've seen him repeatedly make boneheaded decisions and just be an awful quarterback, and got overpaid by the Saints because they wanted to stay alive and try to keep things going. He's not supposed to be good. But somehow it's just 2 weeks in a row, this offense is looking fantastic. And I'm not sure if it's the new coordinator coming in, running all the motion, but all of a sudden Derek Carr looks good. And it seems wild that this is happening.
Yeah. I back to the shaky start. Did somebody start Rashid Shaheed? Because he was gone.
Benched. Danny benched him.
He was benched. He's gone pretty ballistic. This season. I saw something. His average touchdown length is like 51 yards.
Woof.
Which is wild. But yeah, I mean, I agree. We know who Derek Carr is. We're not expecting this out of him. But we'll see if it keeps up.
It's funny because now Max is in this place where it's like, do you start Derek Carr, who's been on absolute fire, is part of an offense that is scoring an outrageous amount of points, or do you start Jaden Daniels, who's part of a really awful offense, but is probably going to, similar to Kyler Murray, run for a ton of yards, maybe get some garbage time stuff, and boost his numbers on the back end of each game. I fully thought about Tim, I even texted you about picking up Derek Carr this week because I was like, I could do the same thing. Sit Derek Carr on my bench and hope Anthony Richardson pops off, and then just play this yo-yo game between, like, do you start Derek Carr and wait until it fizzles out? He can't keep getting away with this, or do you start Anthony Richardson and just hope to get that boom-bust game every single time?
I know. Max isn't looking for my advice, but I mean, what's Jaden Daniels done that makes you want to keep starting him? I had 28 week 1, I guess, but 13 against the Giants, and he's going to get killed.
He's going to get killed. He's absolutely going to get killed. The way I made the comment week 1. Like, Brett, I think you made the joke there. He's RG 2.0 or.
Nah, it wasn't me, but
still.
I think I said though that he's going to get killed.
Yeah, just the way he runs.
That was Alex and I in the chat.
So yeah, great jokes, both of you. But I totally agree. I think there's no way he plays 16 games this season, 17 games this season. No way.
Yeah.
So that wraps it up for the awards here. Now we're going to move on to Brett Johnson's very special segment. We're calling this one the airing of grievances.
Tired of watching your fantasy football team fumble their way to the bottom of the standings? Are your star players underperforming and leaving you feeling like a bench warmer in your own living room? Look no further than Fantasy Fuel, the revolutionary new supplement designed to boost your team's performance and turn your fantasy dreams into reality. With just one dose of Fantasy Fuel, you'll witness a surge of athleticism, tactical brilliance, and unwavering determination in your players. No more dropped passes, missed field goals, or fumbled handoffs. Your team will dominate the field with a ferocity that will leave your opponents trembling in fear. Don't let another fantasy season slip through your fingers. Grab a bottle of Fantasy Fuel today and watch your team soar to new heights. Fantasy Fuel. Because winning isn't everything, it's the only thing.
It sounds like some of you probably could actually use that supplement here with how bad your teams are, so maybe give it a shot and suck less this season. But on to our Week 3 preview. So we definitely went a bit longer with the rants in the middle, but hopefully you all enjoyed that. Looking into Week 3, nobody 2-0 going head-to-head. So a lot of mixed matchups here. Look at the first one, Chris versus Alex. I think we all are on the same page. Chris's team sucks, and Pride doesn't have a shot this week.
I will say, if Joe Mixon doesn't play for Alex, I'll be curious to see who he slots in there. But yeah, I just think that Chris's team is just a little worse at every position than Alex's.
You got to roll with the Gus bus there, huh?
Chris Godwin
No.
has been on a tear too.
Oh. No, I'm just saying if Mixon doesn't play.
Well, Mixon's in his flex spot right now.
Throw some Gus Edwards in there.
As the owner of J.K. Dobbins, I would disagree with that statement.
Godwin has to be the guy for him. You can't
Crit,
bench. If he benches Godwin a third week after blowing
Chris
up.
has T. Higgins in his starting lineup. That's a bit odd.
Yeah.
He practiced.
Chris needs some help.
Did he?
He practiced
limited today.
Yeah.
We'll see. There's two teams that moves need to be made, and we talk about forcing teams to trade. Chris is one of those, and I'm not sure how to fix that team because Puka is going down to injury hurt. That's bad. Tyreek, scary. Not having Tua potentially for at least 4 weeks, maybe longer.
Yeah, that's functional.
He'll have to figure that one out. It'll be hard. Our next one here, Katie versus Lizzy. Projections 117 Katie to 132 Lizzy. I think it's another one where it's going to be a pretty lopsided affair. That's my take on this.
Yeah. That being said, Lizzy's starting Xavier Worthy again, Mark Andrews. Marvin Harrison's had one bad week, one good week. So maybe this is the week where everybody on Lizzy's team that has been booming busts, but she's got some studs: Saquon, Amon-Ra, Marvin Harrison, Mike Evans.
Aubrey, her kicker's going to go for 30 again.
Absolutely. Oh, and she's got the Raiders playing against the Andy Dalton Panthers, so that's going to be a big number from her defense.
I think Andy Dalton's the lift there.
So do I. I still think the Panthers absolutely suck.
Yeah.
My knock on Katie's team is she's got to use that IR spot. McCaffrey's been on injured reserve for 2 weeks now. Got to toss him in the IR, pick somebody else up.
Absolutely.
Find somebody who can help.
Sam Laporte.
She has players that, I'm with you. She has players that should be good.
I think if you're Katie, you just hope and pray that it's a Sam Laporta day and not an Amon-Ra St. Brown day.
Yep.
I think her problem will be DJ Moore. You hope that you're supposed to be good, but that team just looks so bad, and he just looks so angry in the field.
That offensive line cannot block at all. At all.
Well, our next one, Max for Sam, at least is looking closer based on projections, 120 to 122. So it should be, in theory, a more competitive matchup this week. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
I think Sam's team is better, but has bigger questions. If Perine's the guy in Kansas City, if Jaden Reed can get schemed the ball, if Joe Burrow is Joe Burrow, but like Garrett Wilson had an okay game today, I don't expect Neighbors to do the same thing.
Huh?
A little disappointing, especially for where he was being drafted.
Well, I feel like with how good Rodgers is playing, you want that to translate to Garrett Wilson, and it's he scored tonight, so sure, but
it is
5 receptions, 33 yards, and a score is not a Garrett Wilson. That's a Zach Wilson to Garrett Wilson stat line.
It is tough being the highlight of the offense. You could see that the Patriots they put Christian Gonzalez on him all game. They had the safety over the top on him all game. He was running little tiny routes basically the entire time.
Yeah, that was the case last. Yeah, whatever. Yeah,
I think Sam, if she wants to have a chance, she needs both Walker and White to play and play well. And I think Walker's out, so I think she's going to be going to the bench for that one. And White was garbage last week. He looked like trash, and he's hurt. So she very well has no running backs, and now Pirine is her RB1.
I think
that's going to be the issue.
I think Austin Eckler's a candidate for shaky start of the week. I think that Washington is going to be playing from behind against the Bengals. I think Eckler can get 10 catches or something. I think he'd be a good dart throw there.
Could be. I mean, it's going to be Elliott or Eckler as her RB2 is the way it's shaping up. And neither one of those seems very exciting because you don't want to play Elliott against Baltimore. And Eckler, I mean, what did he do last week? I have to pull it up.
He's been okay, actually. Yeah, he's been okay. He catches balls.
But still.
Always has.
If you don't have an RB1, RB2, and you're actually down in the RB4 range for your number one guy, it's not going to be pretty. So I'm leaning the Max side. I think Max is going to run away with it by the time Sam actually sets her final lineup.
Yeah.
Our next one here, it's Brett Johnson versus myself. Projections were at 125 to 123 before tonight started. But again, I can't seem to pick a tight end. But maybe it doesn't matter. What do you think about our matchup?
Last week it didn't matter. We talked about Jamar Chase. I think he needs to have a big week. Dak, how's Dak been doing for you? He doesn't really excite me. I'm afraid of your kicker.
They got spanked by the Saints, man. Dak has not been good.
Yeah. DK, he's always a little hit or miss. Did he do much outside of his long touchdown last week?
He had 11 receptions. He was huge last week.
He was huge last week.
Yeah, DK went off.
So we'll see.
I'm looking forward to it. I think I'm weighing one of my last flex spots there. Brian Robinson versus Tank Dell. That's going to be the one I'm going to take down to the wire there, I think.
Yeah.
But
I have some injury issues. Yeah. Right now I have Keenan Allen and DeAndre Hopkins in my flex spot. And
Jake
You
Ferguson.
have 3 guys on your roster who aren't playing. I'm betting Jake Ferguson's out, and if he does play, he's probably limited.
yeah,
Allen,
I got likely.
Keenan Allen, his heel injury
Tyjae Spears
knocked him out
for
of the season last year. Did you guys see that? He has the same heel injury as last year that kept him out for the end of the season.
Yeah, and he was dealing with it in the offseason too, so he could end up being a bust. I kind of had high hopes for him this year.
Ferguson?
I figure no, Keenan Allen.
Oh, yeah. Ugh,
But week 1 he looked horrible. I mean, the Bears played my tight ends, and he dropped a touchdown. It went right through his hands.
There was also, he got targeted a bunch, and Caleb Williams just could not find him.
Yeah. I mean, I think you got to give a rookie quarterback. You got to give him time. I think even a guy like Rome Odunze, that's a perfect guy that you stash because next year he might be great, and even towards the end of this year, he might do well. But I got some injury stuff to figure out. I mean, Tyjae is for sure going to play. DeAndre Hopkins I think I read he just has a torn MCL.
Oh,
Something like that, and he's like, it's not going to do any damage. It's just pain management, but he's pretty much just.
Oh, I'm sorry. You mean Ferguson?
No, DeAndre Hopkins.
Seriously?
whoa.
But I think it's been like that, where it's just it's not going to get worse. And he said, I think it's the same one he had surgery on, a few years ago or a couple years ago in Arizona, and he's just like it's pain management, and he wants to be out there, but. He's just kind of doing cardio, and he's not getting a ton of snaps. So
He played 25% of snaps in week 1 and 43 in week 2.
I think they're bringing him back a little bit, but it's not great. I'm not loving.
You're going to be starting Whittington.
I might be starting Whittington.
It's not a might. Either you're starting him or you're going to the waiver wire.
Tyjae Spears. Hey, I got a couple things cooking. Don't worry about me. Someone's going to trade me for Derrick Henry. A trade is going to materialize out of thin air.
For anybody listening on this podcast, Derrick Henry has been buoyed by touchdowns. Not good usage. Don't trade Brett.
That's been his entire career.
We'll see. Right now, it's looking like it's going to be close. We'll see how it plays out over the weekend.
I have way too much invested in the Ravens offense.
Yeah.
And I knew that when I bid on Likely, but I wanted to do it anyways. But it's too much invested in one offense. I mean, it worked last week. Zay and Henry combined for 40 points, so it can work, but I don't trust it week to week.
But if you're bringing Likely in, he only had 4. So that's 44 between 3 of them.
We don't need to talk about that, Tim.
Also, tight ends are useless. Most tight ends suck anyways, so it really doesn't make a difference in that spot who you play. It's going to be next to nothing unless you pick the random garbage tight end who happen to blow up this week.
Yep.
Our matchup of the week, Brett Colleton versus Danny.
Let's go.
Brett, I'm gonna hand this to you. What do you think?
I mean, Danny had a good day tonight. I've been talking shit on Ramondre Stevenson since the draft, and him having 0.3 points feels pretty good. But Brees had a good game, 18 points, 54 yards and a touchdown. The New York defense, holding New England to 3 points. I think people were getting a little excited about New England and them being better than everybody thought, and that is not the case. They suck. I don't know. The way that I feel about my team is we're big boom or bust, and I got a lot of guys who could really pop off and win me a week, and then a lot of guys who are a little all over the place. I really like Danny's team. Josh Allen's a beast. Rashee Rice has gone crazy. Devonta Smith has had a lot of really good games.
No
A.J. Brown. Williams on Detroit has been really good. Charbonnet, if Ken Walker doesn't play, that's a good start. The only piece of this that I feel any respite in is the fact that Travis Kelce is projected to get 11 points and will probably end up with 3. So that
just
feels pretty
because you
good.
said that, he's scoring 21.
I know he's gonna have 20 points. It's gonna suck.
Yeah.
But
is Taylor
I
Swift
don't know.
going to the game?
I'm happy with my team. I wish the Rams would put Cooper Kupp on IR so I could pick somebody else up. But, yeah, I don't know. This should be a fun one. It's 50-50 right now. I think it'll definitely be one to monitor going forward. And
you can still put Cooper Kupp in your IR spot.
I don't think so. He's doubtful. He's technically could play this weekend.
Uh-oh.
They're going to wait till the last second to rule him out.
Yeah.
But one more tidbit on Cooper Kupp, and now we're talking about him as I waste more time here. I think that there was a thought that the Rams, you can only have so many players on IR that are eligible to return over the course of the year, and the Rams might be nearing their limit. So if Kupp is close to that window, they might have to just keep him on the roster to not use them all. I don't know the full details of that, but that's what I was hearing today on a different show.
Brett, I think you can still put him on the IR, right?
I just looked.
Once he goes out.
Can't go on there.
Oh.
Well, once he's out. Once he's ruled out on Saturday or Sunday, you can.
My thing is already has him ruled out.
Sleeper has him as doubtful.
I'm looking at it right now, and it says out.
I see out. It says out.
Oh, I just tried. I just went to my team week 3, tried to move him. Didn't work.
Yeah, it says he's going to be in a cast. You're wrong.
You're stupid.
Well, that's the matchups for this week. We'll see how it all plays out. Lots of close ones. It should be interesting. And I guess by the time week 3 ends, we'll have a better idea of who's actually good and who sucks.
Tim, we've been going for 55 minutes. Let's skip toddler time this week.
I'm into that. That works for me. Any last thoughts before we head out? We can call this.
Chris Sorrell sucks at fantasy football.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I'll do it again whenever.
No, it's fun. Next time, don't rant about how my league sucks, Bash the teams instead. I brought you here to talk shit about people's rosters.
Yeah,
and
I'll do
stir
that
up
next
trouble
week.
with Lizzy.
Yeah. Lizzy, what's the deal? You and Trevor, grumble and grouse every time we make Roman, puns and nicknames, and here you are, Roman's Empire is your team name. What gives?
More like Broman's Empire.
Yeah, Broman's Empire. I gotta change my name to Roman the Desert for 40 years.
Just wait. I think Brett Johnson's going to encourage the rest of the league to start changing our names to Roman puns, and then you'll have 9 people poking fun at you for a week. But we'll see how that goes.
It's not poking fun. We all love you, Lizzy. Roman's adorable.
Well, you're back on our good side, I guess.
Fun. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to call it. We'll be back next week with more updates for everyone. Hopefully you have a good weekend, and we'll see you all next week.
Thanks, guys.